Hey friends, welcome to the Angie Ambrosetti Show. Let her out to play. I'm Angie, your host, a teenage mom turned multi-six-figure earner, married to the same man for nearly 40 years. I'm a homeschooling mom of 7 and totally unqualified, at least on paper, but wildly called by God. Remember, He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Here, we are going to talk about it all: healing from the hard stuff, building a business with heart, raising a big family, walking in faith, and finally breaking free from the lies that said we weren't enough. So if you're ready to stop playing small, shake off the doubt and the shame, and step fully into who you were created to be, girl, you are in the right place. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Angie Ambrosetti Show. I am thrilled today to have my new friend, Paige Killian. She is the founder of Everything with Style, a professional organizing company helping busy moms like me simplify their lives and step into more peace and purpose. And girlfriend, who doesn't need that? She is also a keynote speaker and a best-selling author of I've Got You, Girlfriend. I just almost finished listening to the whole thing and I love it. And she is also the host of not one, but two top charting podcasts, including Mom's Organization Motivation and Time to Pivot. After losing her community, which we were just talking about recently, in the 2025 Palisades fire, she stepped into an even deeper purpose, now helping women get organized, embrace change, which I personally don't like, and pivot with confidence. So, welcome, my friend, to the show today.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here with you. I have really enjoyed getting to call you new friend. It was so wonderful connecting with you, especially given that we have a lot of mutual friends.
Yes.
I'm really thrilled for this. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. So, why don't you just start out by telling us a little bit? Let's start with those fires because that is heart wrenching. And when I heard you speak on the stage in at a line in San Diego this past January, I loved. I'm going to say this right. I loved hearing it, but it was heart wrenching. I loved your story and how you expressed it and your heart and how the Lord really brought you through that. So, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Sure. And I totally understand what you mean by that, where you're like, I love hearing it, but also like, hate that for you.
Yeah.
And whenever I do talk about it, whether it's on podcasts or stage or wherever, I I get that feeling because I'm very glass half full, look on the bright side, silver lining girl, and I have a really hard time with dark and twisty. And
Yeah.
so this unfortunately was dark and twisty. It was
Yeah.
devastating. January 7th, 2025. I was actually on the phone with someone who became a girlfriend of mine. I had helped her publish her book, and I was congratulating her on hitting bestseller. We were talking about her doing the audiobook. And thank you so much. You're so kind to say you were listening to the audiobook. We were both sharing how now that we've relocated after the fires, we both are in that long commute drive
Yeah.
time. And so I love listening to audiobooks as well. I knew I had to have one. So thank you so much for listening to mine on that.
Awesome.
And also, same with this particular client, we were talking about how she was going to do that because her book, it's called Should Have Seen That Coming, because at age 53, she started losing her eyesight. And she's like, Paige, how am I going to record this book? Like, I'm reading this book on audio for people to listen. And so
Yeah.
she's fantastic. So we were talking that through that day and found a way to bring somebody in to help her do that. And her book is outstanding. So I got to plug that because she's amazing. Talk about needing to pivot. And so yeah, I had no idea that person I was talking to was definitely going to be super inspirational in a massive pivot that I was about to encounter. When I got off the phone with her, I realized my phone had been blowing up with all these text messages saying, basically, there's a fire in your backyard. And so I ran outside and smoke was everywhere. It had been a
Mm.
clear, beautiful day. And it was moving so quickly because if you know anything about California, we get the Santa Ana winds. They blow and they blow with a vengeance a couple times a year. This happened to be the fire season, and the winds were blowing that day over 80 miles an hour. And I went outside and it was crazy looking, like not even real. I had just been to Tennessee, gotten back a couple days earlier with my children, and I was doing laundry, like the post trip laundry.
Yeah.
So I was doing all of that, and I had just folded a lot and put it on everybody's dresser. So I ran to where I just dropped off in the Harry Potter closet. The Harry Potter closet underneath the stairs. That's where I keep my suitcases. Flung that suitcase back open, ran upstairs, literally grabbed every single stack. And my husband didn't go with me on that trip. And so I just ran to our room when I was getting mine and I just pulled out a couple collared shirts, I think maybe a pair of underwear, and that's it. Like, poor man, I forgot to get him pants. Okay. So thank
Yeah.
you, he was wearing pants that day.
Mm.
But that's it. And I launched them down into the suitcase below. And then I ran down, grabbed the, like envelopes full of birth certificates, social security cards, that kind of thing. We had
Yeah.
envelopes of those in the office. Grabbed the dog, grabbed the dog carrier, ran back out one more time. It was in less than 10 minutes from when I got those. I was in my car driving away. And then
Mm.
you and I were just talking before we hit record about how crazy it was because I have a French bulldog, Thor. You were saying that you have an English bulldog. And I said, I have such a soft spot for these dogs because that day, I never should have received a text message that I received when I got to so our house is second to the end where the gate is, where you go
Mhm.
out of, like you come out of your driveway. There's one more house next to me, and then it's the gate to leave. By the time I leave my house, I lose that Wi-Fi service. So I have never gotten a text message up there ever, ever. And I usually have to drive all the way down the hill, get to the bottom of the hill before I can get any. And that particular day, I got an incoming text message, and our neighbor asked, "Can you please go get our dog?" So I went over, I couldn't even text them back to say, "Yes, I'll get the dog." They went and got our kids. My husband was in Pasadena, over an hour away from our kids. I went and got that dog. And then I get down Palisades Drive, which was our one way out because the other way was on fire.
Mm.
And fire is just coming up around us. I have no reception. And for almost 2 hours, I was stuck there watching our community burn, watching people jump the median, drive down the wrong side of the road in a desperate attempt to get out. And Angie, when I say it looked like the apocalypse in my rearview mirror, I felt like I was on the set, like a Universal Studios
Yeah.
set or something. It did not feel like real life. And I was watching, there were so many people behind me because I evacuated really fast. Long before I evacuated, like an hour before they sent out evacuation orders,
Mhm.
in an effort to go get my kids. And I saw people that were way back behind me, a car lit on fire, palm trees were falling like on fire next to me with palm fronds dropping down on fire, ash was in the air coming through my car vents. And then I was watching people abandon their cars behind me, walking down with babies or pets in their arms, sweatshirts wrapped around their heads to try to keep them from breathing in the smoke.
Mm.
And then I'm just like, this is not real. This
Yeah.
cannot be.
I'm covered in goosebumps, and I've heard a lot of this story before, but it's it sounds like the apocalypse.
It was not anything. Now I've got chills. They just went down my legs. Now I gotta shave again. Okay. We were laughing too about that. See, we gotta have like that
Yeah.
comic relief in the middle of it,
Yeah.
right? We're
Right, right,
laughing.
right. Take a drink of
Really
coffee.
yes, I'll take a drink of my pink drink. You do your coffee.
Mhm.
I am rocking some wet hair today
I
because
love it.
I decided to try to do a ton of house stuff. And I was like, okay, before we get on, I'll just take a quick shower because Angie deserves that. And then I ran out of time to fully dry my hair. And I was like, today we're just gonna have wet spring break hair, and you're
I
embracing
love it.
it.
I mean, hey, you could have been swimming right beforehand. Nobody would even know the difference.
Yeah, sure, that's what I was doing. I was swimming, I was doing a little workout. Sure,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But truly, I mean, honestly, like, we really do have to laugh because I looked at this whole situation, I've had a lot of times, it's been over a year now, and our house actually caught fire. We watched it on TV the
Mm.
next day catch fire, and 5 houses next to us burned completely to the ground. Ours half burned. And then we ended up having a conversation with the firemen who were able to stop the fire. Well, they at least attempted 2 different times, and they kept seeing smoke coming out of our, um, chimney because our chimney was very close to our back patio. That was the thing that it caught on fire because the house next door was so close. The fire and then the winds were catching, those Santa Ana winds were just
Yeah.
catching it. And so our house actually caught the second day on the 8th, caught on fire.
Mm.
And the wildest thing is that when we talked to the firemen, like a week after it happened, they said, "It makes no sense. 2 times we thought your house was a goner. We had no water left, no resources left. The 5 houses next to you had completely burned to the ground, and all of the windows upstairs in our house had exploded from the heat of the fire from next door." And, all of like, we had stuff blowing into our house from the neighbors' houses and
Wow.
on fire and just shattered glass everywhere. And the craziest thing is the firefighters were like, "We had nothing left. We had broken down your door. We had gone in. We had used the last of our water, and we had no resources left." And they said, "Had your house continued to burn, everything to the east of it in the Palisades Highlands would have gone because we had nothing left. And the winds that day were 100 miles an hour." And so it just kept catching, it was like a domino
Yeah.
effect and houses were going down. And so the craziest part is he just said, "I looked up at it." This is the fire chief, looked up at it and just like prayed, God, we got to stop this fire because
Mhm.
we're going to be in trouble with the rest of this community. And he said, "It just fizzled out. It
Mm.
just stopped. No rhyme or reason, should not have stopped with those winds. Our back patio was ablaze. Fire clearly was in the walls and burning all of the insulation. No reason that it should have stopped." And now I know while it's been really tough, being in that limbo situation with a half
Yeah.
burnt house, we're only over a year later. Now, I was just telling you, I watched 3 trucks be taken away of what was left in our home, and just they were calling it a total loss.
Mhm.
It was like, you know what? If that meant that our house stopped everyone else's to the east of us from
Yeah.
burning, great, great,
Mhm.
success.
Well, the provision of God, like we don't understand why things happen. And when they stop in that instance and they're like the firemen, we don't understand why in the world did this not, but the provision of seeing that the rest of the community and the rest of the houses could have burned, praise the Lord.
Absolutely.
Had you guys ever been a part of fires or anything like that? Because I know in California, like I see it on the news, that there can be lots of fires in California.
Yeah, and there's so much, interesting conversation around that because we did live in an area that was prone to fires. When we moved in November 2020, we almost had to evacuate immediately because I believe
Mm.
that was the Woolsey fire. And we thought, "Oh my gosh, welcome to the neighborhood. Whoa, is this what happens up here? This is crazy." Because we were up in the
Mhm.
highlands, which is up near the mountains. And so the winds were so much stronger. So that's really what it is, not clearing that brush, not
Mhm.
having the water resources, and the winds. And so I will tell you that there's a lot of political drama that's going on behind the scenes. And I've just decided to let the people who that is on their heart to deal with that, and they
Yeah.
have the tenacity and the energy to handle that part of this whole thing because yes, we did in fact know that we had insurance. We knew where the exit was to get out. That was the one that I said was completely on fire. I evacuated immediately long before they told us to evacuate.
Mhm.
And, because of that, I mean, I knew that that could be a possibility, and so I did not
Yeah.
wait. I got as little things as I had that I had traveled to Tennessee with. My family is, they're in Tennessee, and so we actually keep a lot of our clothes and stuff there, and so I realized whenever I had packed, I joked and I said this, oh my gosh, I think I'm about to say it on your podcast too. I said this from stage unintentionally, and I was up there, and there's men and women in the room. And do you remember? I said, and I realized I was just rotating 2 pairs of panties after
Yes.
the fire. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I just said panties on stage. And I was like, everybody
Um,
say panties.
yeah. Well, Brooke was on my podcast and she said sex. So she's like,
Oh,
I just said
perfect.
sex on your podcast. I'm like, it's part of the language. It just
Yeah,
is
it
what it
is.
is.
It
Totally
is.
fine.
But we laughed because and again, that, you gotta have, oh my gosh, you've gotta have that comic relief. But it was
Yeah.
true. It was like my husband didn't have any pants except for the pants he had that day. I had 2 pairs of panties. I was rotating.
Mhm.
And, by the way, everybody was a good sport. Everybody goes,
Yeah.
"Please," like you
Yeah.
just gotta whatever. And that's a huge part of this whole thing is like, yes, we knew there were fires. Yes, we knew there was danger. Yes, we still wanted to live up there and we enjoy and we want to rebuild and we want to go
Yeah.
back because that is our community, and God does not want us to have a spirit of fear.
Right.
So, God's got a plan, and if it's going down in fire, it's going down in a fire. And we're
Yeah.
doing other smart things to deal with that, but we had insurance, thankfully. Some people did not. We were unfortunately dropped from the insurance that we had had for many, many years before that, right before the fires. Thankfully, we're able to get more insurance right after they dropped us suddenly.
Mhm.
And then it was like, well, let's see if we can make this work because it's not great, but we are moving forward. I just told you the exciting news is that this past week we started finally getting the ball rolling. And so our contractor is wonderful. We believe that he is a good man with a great team. Our remediation company has proven to be incredible already. And so, again, God is providing. We're just going to keep moving forward and laugh the whole way.
Yes. Yes. Because the alternative is cry. So nobody wants to do that if they don't
No,
have to.
and we've done that, but moving
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
on.
So tell us what has happened since. Okay. Wait, let's go back first.
Okay.
Before the fires, you actually had a podcast.
Yes. So I had the Mom's Organization Motivation podcast where I help busy moms of littles get organized in 3 simple steps. Now, I do have some male listeners, few good men. We love them too. And they want to get organized as well. And it's so funny too, because some of the moms would pass it on to the husbands and then they'd see me in like the carpool line or something, roll down their window or come up to my
Yeah.
car and be like, hey, I know the importance of making my bed now, thanks to you. My wife
Yes.
sent me podcast episodes or, whatever, keeping things organized and tidy and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so there are a few good men listening. Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
have to put a plug in for my husband because he knows my love language is acts of service and he makes the bed every single day. He hasn't always, but probably for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, he even has timed himself because he's busy and he's ready to go in the morning. And so we just moved into our new house a month ago. And so there's more pillows, there's a few more things. He said, I had the last one down to 1.22 seconds. I got to get this one under 2 minutes. And I'm like, babe, it's totally fine. As long as the bed's made, I don't care how long it takes. But he's like driven on that. So he got that memo.
Way to go, husband. I
Yes.
love that for him, and I love that for you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the reason that I made a podcast episode that was all about making your bed is
Hmm.
because what it does for the rest of the day. Clearly, he has that sense of accomplishment
Yeah.
first thing in the morning, and that feels
Hmm.
great. And it doesn't have to be something too hard. And I even talk in the podcast episode, gosh, I haven't thought about it for a long time. I even talk about how whether it's your spouse, whoever you're sharing a bed with, if the kids climb in your bed sometimes too, or if it's just you, make it as easy as possible. I do love a decorative pillow too. I have to limit myself because I know that if I put too much stuff on there, it's going to then become frustrating and stressful. And so I just tell my husband he's got his pillow on his side that he can slap on there when he gets up in the morning, pull it up. And then when I get out of bed, I pull my side up, slap the pillow on, you're done. You know,
Hmm.
really feel like being as amazing as your husband is, and you probably want to tuck a sheet under, good for you. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to
Yeah.
let that sheet live,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know? And but it is there's something crazy about that sense of accomplishment. So little things like that. And I started that podcast rather, the first one. I call it Mom Pod for short, because mom's organization motivation is
Hmm.
M. So, I was a kindergarten teacher back in the day and I love
Hmm.
the acronym.
Yeah.
All right. I still do. I still do. And so the Mom Pod, I had started that because I had started my Everything with Style, my organizing company and business, and I was doing really well. And then COVID hit and we were quarantining and lost all my clients. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, I stay relevant. Well, I got to pivot. And so I started the podcast. It blew up. Marie Kondo and the ladies of the Home Edit, Joanna and Clea, made organizing cool and fun, and
Yeah.
they had their Netflix specials. I don't know if you ever watched those. Did you?
No, but I know I know who you're talking about.
Yes, and maybe your husband would be into it too, because it is so fun, at least for me. I geek out over seeing I love a good reveal and,
Uh-huh.
seeing the before and after of a disorganized space to an organized space, and so they
Mhm.
really made that cool and fun to do, and then I had been doing that for years, and so I thought, "I'm gonna start a podcast because at the time, they didn't have a podcast. I was
Mhm.
like, "I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna talk about getting organized and how we can simplify that." It took off. It just blew up. At one point, it was in the top 0.5% of podcasts in the country, or not in the country, in the world. And
Mhm.
it's just because we were all living on top of each other
Yeah.
globally. We
Yes.
were all living on top of each other. And we finally had that time that was like, okay, if we're all home, we may as well get organized. Like, let's
Yeah.
get through the stuff that we've been putting off for all these years. What else do we have to do besides, like quarantine games and things that kind
Yeah.
of got old kind of fast. So that's what people were doing and it blew up. And then after 3 years, I felt God tugging at my heart saying, it's time to pivot. And I was like, well, that's kind of a good podcast title. So
Yeah.
Time to
Yes.
Pivot podcast was born. And I talk about all these different things. Little did I know I was going to have the biggest pivot of my life when our home and community caught fire.
So he was preparing you to be ready to pivot when the time came.
I think so, and the funny thing is I say, "Well, gosh, did I ask for this when I named it Time to Pivot? Is he giving
Yeah.
me like, this is a little too much content. I'd like less content."
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Can we redo that, please? For
Can
sure.
we? Well, I might have to rename it if this keeps going on, but I will tell you, whenever I had a couple other friends who were podcasting at the same time, and we were and they lost their homes completely, and, they're like, "Do we stop podcasting right now? Do we keep going? Because this feels really hard, and sometimes
Yeah.
something's gotta give." And for me, the choice was to continue actually using that platform to share this stuff. And when you've got a podcast called Time to Pivot, and then something huge like this happens, it is definitely a platform for that. And I didn't want to miss out on the opportunities to share really hard stuff. And so I shared the process of going through that really hard thing. I shared how I fell just 2 weeks after the fire, broke my leg, pulled all the ligaments in my ankle. And I was then in bed 2 weeks non-weight bearing in a wheelchair and a little scooter when I had to get around, and, I just thought, "Wow, God, I thought I was gonna hit the ground running, be the person that helped with donations and getting things to people." I had a car full of stuff on the day that I did it that were meant to go to different people.
Mhm.
He just said, "And I have different plans for you, Paige, and this
Yeah.
is gonna be a physical sitting and waiting period because I have things to say." And, I listened for a lot of months, and I just shared what was coming up for me. I, had other people on the podcast who could talk about their experience. I shared my, time with a therapist. I talked about how I was having a really hard time and I needed to talk to somebody. I needed to
Yeah.
outsource. And so it ended up being a platform that really helped me get through it. It was therapy for me. And I think from what I've heard back, it was therapy for other people as well.
Yeah. Well, I think for sure, something like that, which I haven't been through, but I think anything that's, traumatic, big T, little t trauma, whatever that looks like, that comes into our lives, like we need an outlet to speak about that. And I love what you said about, you and your friend were talking, should we continue? Should we not? Like this big thing just happened. And I know there's been several things in my area or things that happen in California or things that happen in North Carolina that a couple years ago. A lot of people gave feedback like, hey, you shouldn't be trying to, promote your coaching or promote your podcast or, promote what you're selling or whatever, because this, but at the same time, there were so many people that were like, I need that.
Yeah.
Like, I need to hear what you're saying. I need that encouragement. It sounds like you as well. Like, it was an outlet for you to be able to encourage others and give yourself the strength that you probably needed to get through that difficult time.
You're absolutely right. And thank you for saying that. Because one of the things that I would think when I would get on to record the podcast is at first I thought, okay, Paige, don't talk about fires too much because there are a lot of people listening who didn't go through that. And then I was like, wait a second. No, it's the people who are listening, first of all, are smart. Your listeners are smart. My listeners are smart.
Yeah.
And they can tell that's it's kind of like just like whenever you read something in the Bible, you're like, okay, I didn't go through that exact same thing, but I can apply that lesson
Hmm.
to my life. And I thought, I'm just going to share what I'm going through. And I love to back it up in scripture. And so a lot of times, whatever I was talking about, I would have some sort of scripture like, hey, by the way, when I was struggling with this, and then when I decided I was going to do a podcast episode, I just looked up what the Bible said about it. And I've
Yeah.
got BibleGateway.com on. That's one of my favorites because
I love it.
yeah, it's easy, if you don't have your Bible on you, and even sometimes you have your Bible on you, but you don't wanna just flip to a thing and start reading. Sometimes that's great and that's fun.
Yeah. Right.
Looking for a particular thing, being able to go find exactly, if you type in a keyword or a phrase or something, and then have multiple chapters in
Yeah.
the Bible that are talking about this particular thing, that was so helpful for me. So that's kind of the way that I shared on my podcast or from stage or even just talking with friends about this. I would say, man, I'm
Mhm.
clinging to this verse right now. This really speaking to me. And then sometimes I would be talking to some of my clients who I also have coaching clients that I work with. Not only if, like I was talking about at the beginning of the crazy story with the fires that I was helping someone publish their book, but I also help people when if they want to work with me. A lot of times in that pivot that they're in the middle of,
Mhm.
they do need the organization first. So we first will talk about, well, let's do some physical organizing. So that way we can free up time in our brain and space in
Yes.
our brain to feel like we can move forward. And so a lot of times I was bringing in my examples and my all that content.
Yeah.
I was bringing that in with my coaching clients for the first time too about the fires because some of them were people that had gone through that and others weren't. And it didn't matter either way. The clients were like, "Yeah, I never looked at it that way." Or,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's relatable because this is what's going on for me." So I say that because if you've got listeners who ever feel like something they're going through is not something that other people understand, that's okay.
Mhm.
They're either
Yeah.
not your people or they don't get it, and that is okay.
Right.
Or there are people who maybe are listening to what you're sharing when you are brave and bold enough to share it. And they're like, okay, how does this apply to my life? And it's going to
Yeah.
be helpful. Because just like you said, if it's something that you're going through, it may not be universally the same as far as what exactly happened, but it can be universally felt, whether
Mhm.
you're sad or heartbroken or questioning things or, whatever it is, people understand all of those thoughts and feelings.
Well, and I was just relating to what you said about when you're coaching your clients and you bring in your own life experiences and, the things about the fires or just whatever that might look like. And I know for me, when I'm coaching my clients, it's the same. Like I always tell them, I'm like, we're on Zoom. And so I'm always like, well, I'm looking at myself when I say this because I'm talking to myself too, as much as I'm talking to you, because without the life experience that I've had or you've had, how do we coach someone?
Yeah.
It's those experiences that we have been through that help us be able to help others.
Yes, and I woke up this morning to my sweet mom. She's so wonderful and she listens to my podcast every day. And so it's actually been 6 years to the day that I started the Mom Pod. I looked at my calendar this morning. It was 6 years ago during COVID that
Yeah.
I started the Mom's Organization Motivation podcast. And so that means it's been about 3 years
Yeah.
since I started Time to Pivot. And I woke up this morning and my mom was the first person that had texted me. I looked and she said, great podcast episode today. And I thought, which one is she talking about? I was like, which one came out today? So I went and I listened to it. It's called Ask Bigger. And
Mhm.
so I listened back to it because I was like, I wonder what made her say that. And she's always a supportive mom. She's wonderful. But I thought, I wonder what it was this particular day, or this particular episode that made
Yeah.
her like great podcast. Like, I really
Yeah.
love that. And then she was so funny. She was like, and then I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast later, and she said 2 things that you said in your
Oh,
she goes, she sent me a text and she goes, "Is she on your payroll?"
she copied you.
Well, I think it's back to, like, we don't have to have all these brand new ideas. We can be talking about stuff that is universally present in all of our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I was talking about, I actually talked about Amber Lee Lago and an interaction
Yeah.
that we had on that podcast, and, I know you know and love Amber Lee.
Yes, yes.
And so I just was like, ask bigger for things that you're wanting. Allow God to be God. Like, let him
Mhm.
flex his godliness.
Yeah.
Give him something big and say, "This is
Yes.
the desire of my heart. If that's what you have for me, this is a big ask, but I'm going to ask this and I'm going to pray specifically," and just watch him move. Just watch
Yeah.
him move. He has moved so much in this whole experience for us. And I'm overwhelmed. I joke that I have cried more happy tears than sad tears over all of this because people just have been so kind and generous,
Yeah.
and they
Mhm.
want to help and they ask how they can help. And I learned really quickly, especially after I broke that leg. Oh my God.
Mm.
I was like laid up in the bed. I was like, I have to ask for help, which isn't always easy for me. But I saw that it blessed those people so much
Yeah. Mhm.
help, right? Like, people want to be needed and helpful.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoyed my love language is words of affirmation. And so I really enjoyed giving them words of affirmation, be like, "You are so awesome. Thank you so much for how
Mhm.
you've shown up for me. I really appreciate you." And they just you could tell that they just were,
Yeah.
"Oh, no,
I
thank
love that.
you." You know?
Well, going back to biblically speaking, like we have not because we ask not.
Wait, that's in the podcast. You just gave me chills. That's
See?
what I talked about, and I found that verse, and I was like, "Wow, this really oh my goodness. Okay, God, I
Yeah.
listened to that. Come on now. You did
Yeah.
not just pull that verse out of all the verses in the Bible."
Yeah.
Now, Mel Robbins did not say that, but you just did.
But I just said it. And so I wrote down ask bigger because on my way home today, I'm going to listen to that. And the other thing I was going to say is that a friend shared this with me years and years ago. And I've said this on different occasions on my podcast, but God is such an amazing God. I like to say, because I heard this from my friend, God shows up and he shows off. Like you said, ask bigger.
Yeah,
Because when we ask and it is in alignment with what he wants for us and we ask him, man, he can show up and show off so big. And who cares if it's egotistical because he's God and he can do it if he wants to.
absolutely. I mean, even at the Align conference, I was not supposed to speak. I was not in the lineup. And I had prayed in 2024 that not only would I be able to speak, but I'd be able to speak on Brooke's stage at Align because I'm just, we love
Yeah.
her. She's wonderful. And not only does she have me speak at the VIP lunch, but she also, right before, like days before, she reached out to me and she was like, "Okay, I just want to tell you, I hope you're okay with this. I actually just switched up the lineup and I would love to actually have you speak on the main stage as well." And I was like,
I love it. Well, I'm
"Oh,
so glad I was there for it.
amazing. I'm so glad you were too." But I was like, "Okay, God, I asked, right?" And he says, "Pray specifically." And I got that thing, but it didn't look like what I was expecting because it was
Mhm.
exponentially better. And then even being able to meet you and be able to do this podcast and meet so many of these other amazing women, and again, a few good men there too,
Yeah.
who shouted,
Yeah.
"Penny," from the audience with me. Those angels, they're like, "This girl's crazy," I'm sure, but it was fine. And so I just feel like, yeah, you're so right. And it is a nice thing to see
Mhm.
him show up and show off, because then we get to show other people who maybe are doubting his abilities
Yeah.
how we can team up with God and we can like do these great things because he is making those provisions.
Yes. Yeah. And he just amazes me all the time. And so I never take for granted the things that he puts in front of me. And just like you having the opportunity, you've been asking and praying about speaking on that stage. And it he showed up in that way bigger than what you even were asking.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
be careful what you pray for
It's true.
because you never know.
Yeah.
You
It's
know what
so
I'm saying? Yeah.
absolutely. And, can I just share 3 things
Yes.
that I
Yes.
now talk to a lot of people about with the pivoting, not just the whole
Mhm.
thing, but when you're going through a pivot, because you're making me think of it now when we're asking God to do these big things. So I always share these 3 things and I say, in order to feel more confident when you're going through, because usually when you're pivoting through something, it's an unknown. You're uncertain about it. You don't know what
Yeah.
really is on the other side of a pivot. And you maybe
Right.
don't know how to pivot and like, how am I going to get through this? So whether you've experienced a fire or you're going through a metaphorical fire, whatever it is that you're going through, these are 3 things that I actually found that I kept doing over and over again.
Mhm.
Do your research. So when I would be nervous about something or anxious about something, and I wouldn't know how I was supposed to move through it in that
Mhm.
and I didn't feel confident, I would do my research. So, number 1, do your research because knowledge is power. So, you're immediately like, once you learn a little bit more about the situation you're going into, so like for example, when I wanted to speak on the stage,
Yeah.
I had to really dial in what it was I wanted to say. What is the message? What is God putting on my heart? How do we
Mhm.
deliver that? For example, whatever, maybe if somebody is going through something with their business or even a parenting struggle or in a relationship, do your research, figure out some different things going into that could be tools in your tool belt. So do your
Right.
research. Number 2, focus on one thing at a time because it's very often the case where you get overwhelmed and
Yeah.
then you might not get specifically one thing done because you're starting a few different things at a time. So
Mhm.
I've found that if I will just laser focus on one thing and check it off my list, like I know this is a silly example, but like this morning I had a bill and I would pay on it monthly and it was bigger than I had planned to pay like my monthly payments. I owed a
Mhm.
little bit more, but I thought how dang good is that gonna feel if I go ahead and just pay that completely off and I don't wait to do it the next
Yeah.
month, like do it in 2 payments? I was like, "I can pay that off today." And it made me feel so good. I focused on that one thing and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," I got energy from that, do you
I
ever
love it.
feel
Yes.
you, like, make that
Excitement.
yeah, you make that choice and you're like, "Dude, I should have done that months ago." Now, in this
Yeah.
case, you maybe didn't have the money, but it felt so good because I had it and I was like, "Let me just take that off my plate." So, focus on one thing at a time. You're gonna feel so much more confident going into a change if you can just
Mhm.
focus on one thing at a time. Check that off the list, you start to feel more confident. And then the last thing is ask for help. And this is what made me think of, really asking God specifically, whether it's God, whether it's your bestie, whether it's your kids. I'll even ask
Yeah.
the kids. I will ask my kids for prayer. I'll say, like, to my son, I said, "I'm getting ready to go on Miss Angie's podcast. Would you mind taking the dog?" He's really good about that if he's home and they just play downstairs together until I'm off. Sometimes there have been times when I'll say to Duke, "I'm really nervous about doing this thing. Will you say a prayer for me?" And
Yeah.
he's so good at praying and he's 11 and he's really good at it. And so sometimes
Oh.
that's my asking for help and I feel so much better
Yes.
after I've asked for that, So, yeah,
Yeah.
those are my 3 things. Do your research, focus on one thing at a time, and ask for help, and that just gives you that confidence boost that you need going
Yeah.
into whatever it is.
Mhm. Well, and the thing about asking for help is sometimes because it's like ringing bells for me. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna ask for help."
Mhm.
'Cause, like, even this morning, for instance, I was thinking about my son. I was like, "I really got a lot of things going on this morning, and I wanna get XYZ done before I leave." I'm like, "Could you unload the dishwasher?" And he always does. But at first, I was thinking, "Oh, I can do it." But then just asking, "Hey, can you get the dog's food? Hey, can you take the dog out? Can you take the just" I mean, and sometimes they just do it, but when it's on that mom heart, like, you're like, "It's right in front of me right now. I gotta have it done so I can check it off the list." And yeah, just asking for help sometimes it's the simplest thing,
Yeah.
but it can be such a big impact.
It can, and not only do we kinda cover how it's nice because other people then feel like they can help and that feels good to them a lot of times
Yeah,
too, but also I feel like one of the things that I've learned this in therapy, had my little virtual therapist, it was
yeah.
great, Nikki, shout out to Nikki, and I realized that it helps my what's the word? It's new. Oh, my nervous system. It calms
Mhm.
my nervous system. And so
Yeah.
asking, because just like you said, how often, especially as moms, but also women, like we just, it's in our DNA to multitask. And we're like, oh yeah, I
Yes.
can quickly do that while I'm doing this and da da da. And sometimes our nervous system can be a little shot
Yeah.
of that.
Mhm. Well, I also liked what you said, number 2, focus on one thing at a time. So, wearing many hats, as I love your hat, but as we all wear so many hats, right? Like working for my husband, running my coaching business, the podcast, or, running my network marketing business, raising my kids, having a bunch of grandkids. I get like ding, ding, ding. Like I feel like a pinball machine sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that Brooke has told me over time. She's like, set aside time. This is when you're working on Amber's Daddy.
Yeah.
This is when you're doing the podcast, because I get so much more done when I'm focusing on one thing
Yeah.
than if I'm trying to do little bits and pieces, and I do it better. And my husband really appreciates when I do his work better.
That's a really good point. That's a good point because when we are focused in, it's like we don't have all those mental tabs open. And look,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done, right?
Yes.
It takes a little practice.
Yeah.
You can practice. You can be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing today. I'm going to ask for help. I'm not great at it. I'm going to ask for help. Let's just see how it goes. And if
Yeah.
somehow it blows up in your face, okay, don't be done asking for help. Try it again. Try it again.
Yeah.
That asking for help muscle. I got really good
Mm.
at it when the fires came and the broken leg and all that kind of stuff. I had to ask a lot of people for help. And I will never forget one of the sweet gentlemen when we moved into this temporary house. There are a lot of stairs, and he was coming in to help us work on something up here in this temporary house. And I started to go up the stairs and I was limping. And he said, well, come on, girl. And he just like grabbed my arm and he started walking me up the stairs. And I was like, okay, I have your cell phone number. You be careful. I'm going to need to take you everywhere with me. And he's like, you just give me a call. I'll take you wherever you need to go. He was so sweet. Now, I did not have him take me wherever he needed to go, but in my house, when he showed up and we needed to go up and down the stairs when we were working together, I just would stand at the bottom of the stairs and I would wait for him to walk over and give me that arm, so we could
Yeah.
walk up the stairs. Yes. And bless your heart. That was a
Thank
cute
you.
little sneak. I saw your sneeze. And yeah, and he just would walk me right up the stairs. And I was like, man, this is so much easier than me trying to get up here with my crutches and feel unstable. And this man
Yeah.
who I don't know is helping me up and down the stairs. It's a little thing. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about it a year later on your podcast. So it
Yeah.
really made a difference.
Because it meant something. It
Yeah.
totally meant something.
Yeah.
Well, I want to circle back to something that I guess I didn't realize. So, or you can explain it to me a little bit more, but are you a publisher or do you help people publish?
Great question. So I published my book with Landon Hale Press many years ago with the incomparable, absolutely amazing, beautiful on the inside and outside, Samantha Joy. We call her SJ. And so SJ helped me publish my book and get that out with Landon Hale Press, her agency. And she was so sweet because many times she would have people who were on the fence about who do I publish with? What do I want to do? She asked me, may I give them your information so that you can talk to them about the process? And then she said, every person that we send to you signs with us the next day. Like, what are you saying to these people? And I'm like, I'm just telling the truth. I just tell them how it really worked well for me and hit
Yeah.
seller and just the whole process was great. And so and also a huge learning experience for me because I'd never done that. And then a little while later, Samantha's brother suddenly passed away, and she called me very upset and was like, is there any way I have got authors who are crossing the finish line and I am supposed to be meeting with them right now? And I have to go be with my mom.
Mhm.
And she's like, is there any way? She's like, you know, a couple of these people already, and we're getting them over the finish line, getting them to publishing. You'll have access to me. But she's like, this is going to be, it was devastating for her family. And she's like, this is going to be really tough. And I share that because she now shares that. And so,
Yeah.
but at the time, she wasn't sharing that. It was very private and personal. She was trying to figure out how to navigate that. And I was so grateful. She reached out to me, a couple of other people who I know very well. and we just tag teamed getting those authors through what they needed to do. They published. I am thrilled to say they all hit bestseller on Amazon. They were like number one in new releases. They are going on now to be known all over the world. They are starting podcasts. I have helped a lot of them take their message from their book to the stage. I have coached them through that. And so Landon Hill Press and Samantha Joy, that's who I partner with. And I get to be the phase two. So that's like the marketing part of it, where
Mhm.
there have been a couple that I've helped with the writing process, but
Yeah.
typically when they come to me, I'm that phase two book launch coach. And so I help them cross the finish line and really make the impact that they want. And then a lot of them, like I said, will come back and talk to me about how now do we take the message from the book and share it on stages and
Yeah.
podcasts, things like that.
Oh my gosh. I love this so much because I am in the process of writing a book right now. I'm working with Christina Simmons and also,
Wait, pause. I adore her. I adore her so much. She's
yeah,
actually going to be my roommate at Justin Shank's upcoming summit that we're going to be going
okay.
to. I love her. You are in great hands.
Yeah.
That woman is
Yeah.
amazing, and she just did an incredible TEDx talk recently.
I was there in person. I was there. I only live about 2 hours from there, and so when she told me it was this close, I was like, "Girl, I'm gonna be there." So
Yeah.
she and I actually I heard her speak for the first time on Amberly's, event last year. I didn't know her, but she talked about homeschooling, adoption, all these things, and I was like, "We're connecting here." I did not meet her there, but, like, a week or 2 later, we ended up being on in a mastermind with, Jessica Papineau, and we were both on the call. And so she's texting me going, "I want to meet you. I need to know you." And I'm like, "Same, like when I heard you speak." So anyways, I've shared a lot of my story with her and we've been working together for I think we've had, I don't know, 4 sessions maybe together. And so she's helping me get my story written. But I have a question for you is that so how do you encourage people or what do you say to them, which is encouragement, of course, when there's that up and there's those, ebbs and flows, up and down all the time. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Is my story important? Is my story not important? Every time I'm like, okay, I'm up, I'm down. I'm like, Lord, if you don't want me to do this, close the door. If you do want me to do this, put people in my path. And I want you to know I did not know that about you. Number two, my last interview earlier today is actually working in publishing as well. And I'm like, Lord, I did not know this about either of these women. And they're both my, I'm recording today.
Mhm. Yes. Well, I can tell you, no question, you are meant to put that book out. I want to read it. I'm ready to read it right now. Absolutely. And then you got to figure out a way to do an audiobook too, because I love your voice. I love how genuine you are. So you got to figure out how to do that too once it's out.
Okay.
So, first of all, let's just speak as if it's done. Okay. It is
Okay.
done. God has
Okay.
put this on your heart because that is the plan. And girl, you can call me anytime. You can just say, like, oof, give me a word because I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
So having people around you who are going to support you, you're in great hands with Christina. I've got your back. Don't you worry. You're going to get over the finish line. Don't you worry. Number two, I will tell you that one of the things that I preach about, no matter where it is, no matter what is involved, is the 1% rule. I lived by this when I was writing my book. I would, and this goes for organizing, this goes for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Use the 1% rule. Sometimes it can feel really overwhelming and daunting
Hmm.
to tackle a big thing. Writing a book, that's huge. It's not just the
Yeah.
words on the page, right? As the
Yeah.
author, you go through all kinds
Yes.
of ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
You might not even have writer's block. Writer's block is a huge thing, but it could be where this is what I feel could be happening with you. It could be the enemy coming for you, slowing you down because what you have to say is going to help people.
Yeah.
This is where you say what you've said, Lord, if this is what you have for me, show me. Sling that door wide open. Don't just
Yeah.
like, I always pray, like, make it obvious, make it obvious.
Yeah. I'm
And
a hard learn, like, speak to me, please.
yes, yes. I'm like, I don't do well with subtle. Can you make it a little more obvious?
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so pray that prayer, which it feels like you're already on the heels of that prayer, doing great. And then also, God can hear our thoughts, but the enemy cannot. And so speaking
right.
it out loud and saying, you have no place here in my life. You get out and you stop whispering in my ear these things because there is no place for you. You have no authority in my life. You have no authority in this book that is anointed by God. I'm working on something that is far greater than anything I even know to be right now because God has big plans. So you just let the enemy know I have no
Yeah,
time for you and you get out of here. But truly, I go back to that 1% rule. What is 1% better that you could do moving the ball forward? So, like for me, with opening my laptop, that was my 1%. When I was writing my book, it was like, I feel at war, whether I'm like feeling like it's spiritual warfare or just like, I just want to be lazy today, or I just need to do mom things today, or
yeah,
I need to go organize for a client. Or at the time I was teaching second grade. I've taught kindergarten and second grade. And at the time I was teaching second grade. And I just was like, I just need to start following my own advice. What's
right,
1% better that I could do right now? And sometimes it was opening my laptop because what I know is that when I open up that that's how are you
yeah.
writing on a laptop or
I'm speaking.
okay, okay, perfect. So then
Yeah.
whatever that is, so is it picking up your phone to speak into it or is it doing it in your microphone?
It's, picking up my phone, and it's also recording via when Christine or I are on the call, like, we record everything, so we're taking those nuggets, and then I'm also speaking into my phone and sending her, like, "Here's the transcript, here's what I've said, this is the story that's coming to mind right now."
Excellent. So yeah, your 1% can be pick up the phone and hit record. That
Yeah,
could be your 1% because here's what I've learned. So, like I said, this could go for like organizing too.
yeah,
Let's say you've got mail on the counter and you're so annoyed by this mail pile and you literally will like slide the mail over to clean and then you
yeah,
slide the mail back to make your dinner or
yep,
whatever it is. Whatever the thing is, it could be like entryway with the keys and backpacks and the chute, whatever it is, right? I will then go to the mail pile and I will say, just do one letter, 1% better. Open up one letter and process it, right? So you're going to open it up. You're either going to pay a bill or you're going to be like, oh, this is trash. I'm going to shred it and throw it away. Or you're going to be like, oh, I read that cute card. That's so sweet. And then you've processed that, like stick it if you want to keep it or if you want to throw it away, whatever. That's one
yeah,
letter. Oftentimes, when I decide I'm going to do one thing, when I just stop everything, I focus on that one thing, I do that one
yeah,
little thing. Inevitably, I stand there and sometimes I make it through the whole mail pile. Sometimes I make it through 6 or 7 pieces. Same thing with the writing the book. I would open my laptop. I wouldn't say I need to do 300 words. I need to do 5,000 words. I need to do what a chapter. Instead of doing
yeah,
open your laptop and start writing.
mhm,
You pick up your phone and start talking. Inevitably, more is going to happen. And there are going to be certain days where it's not working, do it again the next day.
yeah,
And other days, that's all you needed was to just stop and focus on it for long enough. And boom, God just lets it all flow.
yeah.
The
Oh, thank
1%
you,
rule.
that's so good.
Yeah.
It's just knowing that, like, the 1% of what you're doing, but also, like, I thought this is where you were gonna go, but this makes so much sense too, is the 1% of who you could impact.
Huge. Yeah. Look,
Like,
I don't own the 1% rule. You
"Oh,
could
I
be
know."
talking about the 1% rule, and that can be your thing.
Yeah,
Think of one person that you're going to impact today, and
yeah,
that's going to be a snowball effect. That one man who was so kind, who helped me up my stairs. Now, all of the people listening today know about that one kind man. His name
yeah,
was Donnie, by the way, which is my husband's name. Shout out to Donnie, my husband, and that nice man. And
yes.
I mean, you never know. He impacted my life. That was a
Mhm.
kindness that he did for me that I have clearly not forgotten. And so, yeah, your book, and I mean, obviously, I'm already impacted by your book. You haven't even put it out in the world, and I'm already rooting for you, and I'm already very excited to read it. I'm your one person today, but when your listeners listen, we're all going to be chomping at the bit to get this book, right, listeners? Yes, they
Yeah.
said yes.
Well, thank you, friend. I appreciate it. And I value your time so much. And I want to ask one more quick question because I was trying to write this down while we were talking. But the Moms Pod, that's Mom's Organization. What's the last M?
Motivation.
Motivation.
Well,
Okay. Because,
organization, motivation. And
yes.
the idea behind that is that
Hmm.
either you know what you need to do and you just need a little motivation for it,
Yeah.
or maybe you need help knowing what to do because there's lots of different ways to organize things. And so I share 3 simple steps to organize all different types of things in your life on that. And there's like 160 something episodes on that. And now Time to Pivot, that podcast is also up, and it's all about, different things that we can also apply that to, and
Yeah.
how we can get more confident in pivoting. And I've got some exceptional guests on there as well. And I just feel like I learned so much from them. So yeah, both
Yeah.
Mom Pod and Pivot Pod is what I call them.
So where is the Ask Bigger? Which one is that on?
That one's on Time to Pivot.
Okay.
That's
Time to
today's
pivot.
episode. I can even probably tell you, let's see. I was just going to say which one it is.
Okay.
Oh, what just popped up for me is For His Glory CEO. If you don't know, Ali Spitzbergen, she just interviewed me, and we talked on her podcast recently too about the crazy fires, but just about all the things, all the things.
Yeah.
And I love too that I can tell you right now, Ask
Okay.
Her is episode 124
124.
on
Okay.
Time to
And what
Pivot.
were you going to say?
Oh, just that I love that even though I've talked to other people about this, I love how we're bringing up some new interesting things on your podcast.
Yeah.
Love that, it's the same thing as the book, or it's the same thing as coaching somebody, doing it in your own style. That's actually
Hmm.
where I got the company name, Everything with Style. It's all
Hmm.
about doing it in your own style because
Yeah.
you know what you need in that moment. And if you don't, you can ask for help, and I'll swoop in
Right.
and help because I've got
Yeah.
a girlfriend.
I
Um,
love it. I
but
love that.
you are so outstanding. You're such a great interviewer. You mentioned before we got on that you want it to feel like a conversation, and I
Yeah.
feel like we could just talk and talk about things.
We're
'Cause it's
besties.
so
We're
fun.
besties already. I mean, hello, one good 45-minute conversation, drinking our pink drinks and coffee, and who knows what's going to happen next.
Exactly. I look forward to hearing what's going to happen and seeing what's going to happen next with your book, but with us as friends.
Yes, I'm excited about it. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. I know my audience is just going to love you. And I just want to put another plug in, like go listen to that Audible book. I got your girlfriend, because I wanted to tell you this too, is that I'm an organized person, and I just moved into a new house. So things are somewhat pretty much organized, but I was like, okay, I can pivot on this, and I can organize this better, and I can do this better because I want to simplify. And my daughters, they're like, please simplify so we can have all your stuff. That's their favorite thing. Can you simplify, please, so we can have some of that stuff? But thank you so much for being my guest. I so look forward to what the future holds for our friendship.
Me too. My pleasure. This was such a joy. Thank you so much, Angie.
It was awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in again today to the Angie Ambrosetti Show. And if you want to get in touch with Paige, I'm going to put all of her information in the show notes below so that you can get in touch with her as well. We'll see you next time on the Angie Ambrosetti Show. Thank you.
That's it for today, friends. Thanks for tuning in with me today. I hope today's episode stirred your soul, sparked your faith, and reminded you that your story is far from over. Keep walking in freedom. Keep showing up bold, and never forget, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Be sure to leave a review, subscribe, or share this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it as well. Until next time, keep letting her out to play, because the world needs your fire.